Hey guys, welcome back to a new video where today I'm doing another ranking, this time of all the Pixar movies, since the latest Pixar movie, Luca, came out sometime. Honestly, I don't know, I'm pre-recording this, I haven't even seen Luca. But yeah, I don't really want this video to be too long because 24 films to get through. And I've limited myself to a maximum of 2 minutes for each movie. But yeah, as I said, don't want this video to be too long. So yeah, let's just get into it. Coming out last place is Cars 3. Now, I know some people like this movie and they think it's the best out of the Cars movies, but I'm sorry, this film isn't for me. It's just not funny, and it's slow and boring, and the ending is not good at all. And there are some good elements and some good ideas, and I could even say this is not a terrible movie. It's just I didn't like this movie at all. There are some good elements, but the bad elements just overweigh it. And yeah, uh, moving on to number 23. Coming in at number 23 is The Good Dinosaur. Now, I don't think this opinion will be that controversial, since this is probably the most forgettable Pixar movie. I wouldn't be surprised if watching this video you even forgot this movie existed. And it's probably the least popular Pixar movie. You think Pixar, you're like, oh, Toy Story, The Incredibles, Finding Nemo. And then you're just like, oh wait, they did this film. And what sucks is that this film has such good animation. The animation, all the background stuff, it is phenomenal. But it's just in a boring ass movie. This movie is so slow. Even more boring than Cars 3, even, I'd say. But the animation and all that, I think it kind of saved this movie from being the worst movie ever. And yeah, that's really about it. Coming in at number 22 is Cars 2. Now, this kind of has the stigma of being the worst Pixar movie, but in my opinion, I don't think it's that terrible. I understand that it is bad, and Cars was already a pretty bad premise, and now you're making a spy movie. What, and Mater's the main protagonist? Well, it's just so weird, but it's just I can bear it over the Good Dinosaur and Cars 3. And I think that it kind of just has this meme quality to it. It's just got the stigma of being the worst Pixar movie. And yeah, it's bad, but I don't think it's terrible. I would say it's maybe a 3 out of 10. But yeah, moving on to number 21. Coming in at number 21 is Brave. So this probably has the most amount of potential that was wasted for a Pixar movie. It doesn't even really feel like a Pixar movie. It feels more like a Disney movie. And that's weird because in the same year, Disney released Wreck-It Ralph, which kind of feels like a Pixar movie. So it's almost like they did a switcheroo. But yeah, kind of with Cars 2, this kind of has a memeable quality to it. I just loved watching this movie with my cousins when we would just, laugh at all the Scottish accents, and yeah, it's kind of funny when you see it for that, and also, I think it has somewhat of a story, but yeah, it isn't as good as I wish it could be, because this had a lot of struggle behind the scenes, if you don't know. But yeah, it's gonna have to do, because yeah. Moving on to number 20. Coming in number 20 is Cars, the first one. yeah, I think the first Cars is the best Cars movie, and it's still not the best. Now, I know this film, like, it has somewhat of a nostalgia to it, with some people, but it's just, the concept is, like, not that good. Like, what if cars existed and were like humans, and it's about racing and stuff? It just, it's not that good of a concept. And yeah, they don't really do anything special with it. And really, the story is fine, I guess. I do believe Lightning McQueen's story arc, and I do like the ending where he sacrifices being number one to help out the dinosaur guy. I forgot his name, but yeah, I like that ending, and it shows how far he's come. And I think it's fine, but it's just not my thing. Coming in at number 19 is Finding Dory. Now, I don't necessarily hate this movie. I wouldn't even say I dislike it a whole lot. I just think this is the most mediocre Pixar movie, if that makes sense. Like, there are some good ideas, and sure, it's unnecessary, but it makes you not think that through the way. It has a couple good laughs, and I think Hank is a really good addition to this Finding Fish series. Um, and yeah, it's serviceable, but you could spend your time with a lot more better things. Coming in number 18 is A Bug's Life. Now, like Finding Dory, I just find this movie just really mediocre, and I feel like that's kind of what it's become. Like, I wouldn't say it's the most forgettable Pixar movie, because that's, of course, The Good Dinosaur, but this is probably the second most forgettable Pixar movie. Like, yeah, it kind of just has that vibe, and like, kind of with Finding Dory, it has some good things. I think Hopper is a good villain who's voiced by absolutely no one at all. And I don't think it's terrible in any way. I'd say it's a fun time. I think it's just, it barely beats out Finding Dory, but you could, like with Finding Dory, you can spend your time doing something better. Coming in at number 17 is Monsters University. Now, this may be an unpopular opinion, but I actually really enjoy this movie. I would say it's like a solid 7 out of 10. Like, a lot of people say it's unnecessary and that it retcons things, and yeah, it kind of does. Like, in the original Monsters Inc., they do say, oh, you've been jealous of my look since 6th grade or 5th grade, and this movie completely retcons that. And of course, there's that scene at the end with the abominable snowman, and yeah, it's unnecessary, but I still really enjoy this. I think the comedy is pretty good, although it's not funny all the time. It's still good. I like the ending and how they don't actually just, well, spoilers, but I like how they don't actually graduate, and that, they find their time doing something else that eventually, results in their job. And I kind of feel like that's kind of what the opposite of a kids movie. Like, it's saying you don't have to go to college, you could still be good without it, and it's kind of weird, but yeah, I do quite like it. The jokes most of the time are funny, and yeah, unpopular opinion, but I think this film is fun. Yeah. Coming in at number 16 is The Incredibles 2. Now, this is one of the most anticipated sequels in the world. Like, we were waiting, I'm pretty sure, like 15 or 14 years for this movie, and it's fine. It's not as good as the original, nowhere close, but there are some ideas that I think are good, and I like all the Elastigirl stuff. I think that was really cool, and I kind of like seeing Bob try to be the dad when he's used to fighting crime, and this is in no way a bad movie. Like, there are some things, like the really predictable twist villain, which I kind of hope that, or I kind of wish that they made it seem really predictable when really it was actually really a good twist. And yeah, I think this is really funny. Like, not the funniest Pixar movie, because we'll come back to that later, but this is still one of the most funniest Pixar movies. And I would still watch it under my own free will, like, if no one told me to watch it. And even if someone told me to watch it, I wouldn't mind. And yeah, it's just good, and I had a fun time. Coming in at number 15 is Up. Now, kind of like with Monsters University, I'm sure this will upset quite a lot of people, and it's kind of the same argument people have when they say they don't like this movie as much as everyone else, is that the opening, the opening scene is fantastic. Like, there's no arguing that. It's beautiful, it makes you cry, and it's a really good opening. But I feel like the opening gets too much. Like, no, sorry, I should rephrase that. The movie, it kind of doesn't live up to that. And if they release those opening minutes as, say, a short film, I feel like it could have worked better. Like, not to say that this movie isn't good. There's a lot of good things. I like Doug, the dog, and, like, I think Russell's a good sidekick. I like Carl as, like, the protagonist, sort of. And this is in no means a bad movie, but I just kind of feel like it's a bit overrated because of the opening, which is fantastic, as I mentioned, but it's not as good as no, sorry. The rest of the movie isn't as good as the opening, is what I'm trying to say. And yeah, that's really about it. Moving on to number 14. In number 14 is WALLE, from one unpopular opinion to another. Now, like with a lot of these movies, I do not hate these. Like, rethinking it, I only think Pixar has made, like, genuinely maybe, like, 3 films, or maybe 4 films I would call bad. And this is really good. I really enjoy the chemistry between Wally and Eve, and I think it's cute. I think that's the right word. Like, the romance and Wally, with, like, going to space and all that. And I think it's a good message about the environment. And I could definitely see why someone would see this as, say, their favorite Pixar movie. It's just not my thing, it's just not my cup of joe, if you know what I mean. And yeah, that's really all I have to say about it. Like, I don't mind the fact that they don't talk throughout, like, the first half of the movie, like, because movies are visual mediums, and sure, we can get, like, a lot of good writings a lot of the time, but it's not necessary to make a good movie. Like, this movie is good without dialogue, and I really like those openings with, like, Wally and Eve on Earth, and there's just no dialogue, and you can just kind of tell what they're thinking through their expressions, and I quite like that. And this is well directed, and yeah, it's just a good movie. And yeah, moving on to number 13. Coming in at number 13 is Onward. Now, this film doesn't necessarily feel like a Pixar movie, if that makes sense. It's kind of like this magical thing, and Pixar doesn't really do magic a lot of the time. Like, short, like, their films include toys coming to life, and, like, yeah, and all that, but they haven't really delved into magic. But that definitely doesn't, like, make this not a good movie. Like, it's made it this far on the list, and yeah, I think the voice acting is really good. I totally buy Tom Holland and Chris Pratt in their roles, and I do love, like, the brotherly kind of love and relationship they have. And I don't think it's a bad story at all. And I kind of wish they did more with its premise. Like, it's magic, but now it's suburban and they don't really use magic. But maybe they use magic to make their father come back. I think that's a good story. And I think it's a good premise. And yeah, this movie could have been better, but it could have also been a lot worse. And I also really like the ending. And yeah, moving on to number 12. Coming in at number 12 is Luca. Now, there's a lot of things wrong with this movie, and honestly, a lot of nitpicky things I could say, but this film is just really fun. Like, I just found myself having a really good time with it. I think it's a really funny movie. I think there's a lot of good things about it. The voice acting is great. I think it's fun to see, like, Italy, since, I don't live there, so it's fun to see this culture and something that I would have watched even if I knew nothing about it, mostly because it's Pixar. And I kind of like the animation. Like, Pixar movies now, they're going for this, like, realistic sort of uh, look with maybe, like, cartoony characters, like their stamp. But with this one, it doesn't seem like they want it to look realistic. It looks like they want it to look more like a cartoon, and I really like that. And this film is just really fun, and yeah, moving on to number 11. Coming in at number 11 is Finding Nemo. Now, this might be another unpopular opinion, since I think this is one of the Pixar movie I feel like gets, like, being called the best, kind of like how The Lion King is called the best Disney movie. And while I think this movie's better than Lion King, another unpopular opinion, I'm sure, I still think this movie's really fun, and yeah, I think it's a good story. I like the characters, and it is funny, and I kind of appreciate how it's in Australia, because for those who don't know, I'm Australian, so it's kind of fun to see the country I live in be in such a big movie. Some problems I have with the film, really I don't have that much to problems with it. I just don't really think that it's my thing, if that makes sense. But yeah, this is still really fun, and I do quite enjoy myself every time I enjoy this movie. I just think that these other Pixar movies are better. Coming at number 10 is Soul. Now, just for one, this isn't really a kids' movie. Now, Pixar usually finds that, like, middle ground between being enjoyable for kids and being enjoyable for adults, and usually a Pixar movie can be suited for any age, and you would still have a fun time. But this film doesn't really seem that kiddish. Like, you do have some, like, kid things with, like, the whole body swapping thing, and there are some kiddish, like, childish moments. But this film is the most adult movie Pixar's probably made, and I'm kind of good with that, because I think it's a good story. I think the animation is great. I love how realistic the real world looks, and how, like, the pretty colors in the Soul world, and I love the combination between 3D and 2D. The same reasons I love the Mitchells versus the Machines and Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. The blend of 2D and 3D, I think it's amazing. And yeah, this is just a good movie. Could have it been better? Probably, but really, I just enjoy this movie a lot, and yeah, that's really about it. Coming in at number 9 is Toy Story 4. Yep, we're at number 9, and we're finally getting one of the Toy Story movies, because I have a huge bias against these movies, but I will get into that later. And put simply, I really enjoy this movie. I think it's funny. I think it's heartfelt. I cried during the movie, just for one. And yeah, I like the return of Bo, and while it is kind of pointless, since Toy Story 3 had that, like, that powerful ending that was just so great. I do think this is a welcome addition because when you really think about it, Toy Story 3 is the end of Andy's sort of arc, but Toy Story 4 can be seen as the end of Woody's arc since, he realizes he doesn't need a kid, which is a complete 180 from the original Toy Story, but I still kind of really enjoy that, and I think this movie is just really good, but please don't make a fifth one. Just don't. Coming in at number 8 is Ratatouille. This film is weird. It is about a rat that cooks, and yet it is so great. Brad Bird he knows what he's doing with this movie, and he's having a good time, and I really enjoy this movie, and I think it's critically one of Pixar's best, and it probably doesn't deserve, like, all the non-recognition, I guess. Like, this film is probably one of the most overlooked Pixar movies. I feel like that's sort of changed with people realizing that it is really good, especially with, like, videos coming out about how good it is as recently as, say, last year. And yeah, I think it deserves that because this movie is really good, and I think it's a wacky premise, but I think they take advantage of that, and I think that they use the film's strengths against its weaknesses, and yeah, I feel like I'm just repeating myself for this top 10 because it's just gonna be all, yeah, I really enjoyed it, but yeah, moving on to number 7. Coming in at number 7 is Monsters, Inc. I feel like this is another unpopular opinion because, like, it's Monsters, Inc. It should be higher than number 7, if that's even possible. And yeah, it kind of does pain me to put this at number 7 because I feel like it should be higher. But I just enjoy the other Pixar films above it, I guess. But just to start off with, I think this is Pixar's funniest film. Like, yeah, it's got a lot of moments in it, and yeah, it's just really, really funny. And yeah, I also think it's the best premise of every Pixar movie. The idea of monsters living in its own world and them having to scare children to get energy. I feel like that's a really good premise and could be a reasonably explanation to kids why they always see monsters under the bed or in the closet. And yeah, it's a really good premise, and it's Pete Docter's first Pixar movie, and he just knocks it out of the park. And yeah, not much to say. It's just really funny, really good, really heartfelt as well. And yeah, it's just one of Pixar's best, and it pains me to put it in number 7, but hey, moving on to number 6. Coming in at number 6 is Coco. Now, when it came to this in number 5, it came extremely close. Like, I was keep on flipping the two around, but eventually this got the short end. But I'm also fine with it, but I'm also kind of disappointed because this film is amazing. When I first saw the trailer, I wasn't that interested. I'm not gonna lie. I thought this kind of just looks like the Book of Life, but not as good. And yeah, I was one of those people who thought this was gonna be a Book of Life ripoff. But when I watched it, I was blown away. This film is amazing, and it has possibly one of the best endings to any Pixar movie. And yeah, it's just really heartfelt, emotional, funny at times as well. And yeah, I was just blown away. Kind of with Luca, it's interesting to see a different culture than mine, with this one being in Mexico. But I feel like it's portrayed better here because, while in Luca, it's sort of just like oh, if it could be set anywhere, It just so happens to be set in Italy. This one feels like it couldn't be set anywhere but Mexico, and I feel like that's quite, empowering, and or at least like it just, yeah, I don't know what to say. The animation is also beautiful in the like, I was about to say Soul World, but no, that's Soul. In like the death, the afterlife, whatever it's called. I'm pretty sure I have a word for it in the movie. But yeah, this movie is beautiful. I love it. It kind of pains me to put in number 6, but kind of with Monsters Inc., you get what you get. Moving on to number 5. Coming in at number 5 is Inside Out. Now, there's a lot I can nitpick in this movie, because it's not, like, perfect. It's heavily flawed, and there's a lot of stuff, like, I can nitpick about it. But I love this movie too much to care. This film is just so good. Every time I watch it, it makes me happy, it makes me sad, it makes me feel all the emotions I'm supposed to feel. And honestly, I just love this movie, and I think this just has the best message out of all the Pixar movies. That being, it's okay to, feel sadness. If anything, you shouldn't feel happy all the time, and you should express more. That's just such a good message for kids, and it displays it in such a good way, and this is just one of the most original Pixar movies, like, in recent memory. Like, they've been doing a lot of sequels, and sure, there's an original hero there, but this film is just really good. And besides the movie coming next, this is probably my favorite modern Pixar movie. So yeah, just absolutely love this film. And yeah, moving on to number 4. Coming in at number 4 is Toy Story 3. I absolutely love this movie. This film was like, I don't know how to describe it. I just absolutely love this movie. I love the theme of just growing up, and I love the ending. Oh my goodness, the ending. Like, I know, like, the ending gets a lot of praise, but come on, that's like one of the best endings in cinematic history. I'm just gonna call it for what it is, because my goodness, is that tearjerker. And while that ending does get like a lot of praise, that doesn't mean the rest of the film isn't as good. I'd say it's equal to that. And if you know how good the ending is, you know that that is very high praise, because this film is amazing, and it's fantastic. I love it, and I am so surprised it's only number 4, because there's still 3 more movies I love slightly more than this movie. It's just crazy. But yeah, I love just the Toy Story franchise in general, and I love this film to bits. Coming in at number 3 is The Incredibles. Now, the perfect film does not exist. That being said, this film is near perfection. This movie is just, okay, critically speaking, this is the best Pixar movie. I don't care about, like, opinions and all that. Well, I care about opinions, I should probably rephrase that. Like, all opinions aside and, like, biases, this film is a masterpiece. Not in, like, animation or superhero genre, just in film in general. This film is amazing. Everybody loves it. I haven't seen one person who thinks this movie isn't below subpar. And it's just amazing, and I love it. It's incredible. No, it's more than incredible, in fact. And yeah, it's just, I love it. It's The Incredibles. Like, what could possibly be better? Well, coming in at number 2 and number 1 is Toy Story 1 and 2. Yeah, you might call it bias, but these movies were my childhood, and they still remain to be some of my favorite movies ever, not just Pixar or animated, just of all time. These, like, two films, they just inspire me to do what I do here, and sure, they might not have the most complex character. You know what? Forget that. They do have complex characters, because Woody is such a good character in both these movies. The story is, like, consistent, and Buzz is, like, I love his story arc in the first movie where he learns that he is actually a toy, but being a toy is fine. And yeah, sure, you might say that Toy Story 3 is better, or that Toy Story 1 isn't that good or doesn't hold up well, but I don't know. I just have a bias for these movies, if you couldn't tell. Literally, all four of them are in the top 10, or at least as I'm writing this, I might change it. But yeah, these just two films are amazing. I love them. I'll probably make a video on them someday, because I just absolutely adore all four of these movies. Even Toy Story 4 I love, as I previously mentioned. And yeah, these two films are just amazing. I love the story, and yeah. So yeah, that's my ranking. Do you disagree? Probably. I have some unpopular opinions when it comes to Pixar, but I also have some popular opinions. So yeah, tell me what I got wrong, what I got right, maybe post your ranking. Who knows? Just stick by your opinion, I guess. And yeah, make sure to leave a like if you liked the video. If you liked it, maybe check out some of my other videos if this is your first time on my channel. And I guess I'll see you next time. Bye bye.